If we can have your attention, we'd like to call our meeting to order, and I would ask Mr. Ronnie Adams if he would help us with the pledge and the invitation, please. If you would stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Heavenly Father, we pray to bless each and every one that's here, pray that the meeting will go in an orderly fashion and be of the advantage to all people. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I'll show the first, Mrs. Palmer. Haven't heard from her, so not sure if she did you come. Did she expect what she's done? Okay, well maybe she's just running a little late. Okay, is there any conflict of interest for anyone to declare regarding any of our agenda items tonight? Anybody? All right, then we will move on to our citizen comments, and I believe we have one person signed up, Mr. Leach. You can have the podium.
My name is Louis Leach. I live at 7345 Sweet Gum. I'm one of the captains on the fire department out here. A little bit about my comment I want to make, and I'm not sure who I need to address this to, is I don't know how many in this area have served in the military and are combat veterans. You know, the fireworks, I enjoy it. 4th of July, New Year's, don't bother me. But when you served in combat and lost a brother, Memorial Day, that really upset me. I know Miss Wainwright up here, she did not sell. I don't know what the situation is, but I commend her. But what can we look at to address an issue to not allow, I know the state of Texas has opened it up, but us combat vets that have lost brothers, it does affect us on days like that. And it did affect me this year. Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. You know, I know y'all can't answer me, and y'all may not be able to answer that question, but I would like to bring it to the city's attention, you know, that we do have veterans that are in that situation in this community.
We can certainly look into it and bring it back again, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Would it be like an ordinance to ban the sale of fireworks during
You have to specify the date, Jim.
the Delta?
Did the Texas legislature just
That's what we need to
just
start.
change?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Just changed the law so that this is the first year.
But you won't be able to stop them from hopping. But you can stop them from selling in our city. But I don't know how you can stop them.
This is something we need to research, and that's Drew will have to take a look at this for us. So, okay, got it taken down. We will certainly get back to you on it. Thank you very much. Okay, there's nobody else. Okay, well, we have Officer Rod Carroll with us tonight to give us our neighborhood watch report. So, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'll go over the robbery that we had in Trim in 105. I noticed that's a hot topic on Facebook. I'll go over that after I get done with the report and give you all some information. May was, we had one traffic offense. We had a prowler call. It was really turned out to be a mental health crisis, one of those situations. Driving reckless, we had a family assault, a disturbance. We had criminal mischief, which was back at the plant where we had the car go into the woods. I know they're investigating that. I'm not sure what the outcome of that was. Our usual agency assist with EMS and the fire department, which we're so glad to assist y'all whenever y'all need anything. Welfare concerns. We had one burglary, which is someone entered a building and took a chainsaw. That's pretty common. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that picking up a little here and there. It's power tools, it's the lawn mowers, it's the weed eaters, things that they can easily, things that they can easily pawn or sell in the parking lot. So that's kind of a regular issue. And then of course we had our 911 hang else, which most of the times we find is an issue of a child playing with the phone. If that's the worst reason we come out here, that's really a good issue. I have no problem with that. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday morning, I believe it was at 12:20 a.m. Monday morning, we did have a robbery at the Express Mart at the intersection of 105 and Rains. Two individuals with bandanas entered the store. Both were black males. They held the clerk at gunpoint and robbed the store. Just previous to that, I believe about an hour earlier is the time span, we had a similar robbery the city of Beaumont did at 105 in East Tex at the Express Mart there. Both individuals were armed with firearms. We have some photos of the individuals on the Facebook page for the sheriff's office. That one of them had a very distinctive pant leg, little polka dot, black pants with polka dots all over it. And what they do, I'm going to be honest with you, they layer. They layer their clothes so that when we stop them, they have different clothes on than when they do the robbery. And I've actually had them before where I've chased somebody and I had 3 sets of clothes on them. So I guess they were going to be busy changing as they ran from me. But that's one of the situations we're dealing with right now. We're trying to identify these individuals. I think the pant leg that we're able to see with the polka dots is going to be very helpful working with Beaumont PD on this issue. Robberies, there was an incident, the gentleman that, and I use the word loosely because he's currently incarcerated at our correctional facility, the 17-year-old that killed the gentleman over there on Sun Meadow. It was one of the meadows. I think it was Sun Meadow. It looks like, from the news stories I saw, they're going to probably put about 15 robberies on him over in the Lamar area. So, this is pretty consistent. You have 90% of the crime committed by 10% of the criminals. And once we identify somebody, we're able to go back and start piecing together other crimes that they've committed. So this little robbery crew, they hit 2 stores in one night. I fully expect them to try it again. Of course, we know we've had 2 situations here in Jefferson County recently. One was over there on College Street, where should have robbed somebody that has concealed the carry. God doesn't like ugly. And things happen. I mean, that's the reality, We're going to continue to see those kind of situations. They're going to continue to be active until they're caught. And what I do fear is anytime I have a robbery crew going at it, there's going to be a third one. They didn't just both get out of the car. There's a car out there that got them from point A to point B. We have no description of the car as of right now. But be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. The group that was following people and robbing them after they went to the bank and the ATM machine, we've actually identified that gentleman. He was out of Orange, Texas. That was earlier this year. Just be aware. If you're being followed, call 911. Tell us where you are, and our dispatcher will most likely start redirecting you so our units will intercept you. And that's one of the key issues is the quicker you can get us into the area, the quicker we can catch these individuals. And you'd be surprised how often, once you get one person, how you start building your cases for everything else that's happening in the area. Do y'all have any questions for me, from the council or from the audience?
Should we be worried?
No, I wouldn't be worried. I'm going to be honest with you. Is I live not far from here. I have a college-age daughter and a wife that likes me on Sundays. But no. If you look at crime today in the United States, although we do a really good job of advertising crime because we have social media, and a lot of times the things that are advertised on social media are not accurate. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you look actually at the national crime statistics, crime today is lower and has been on the decline of major crimes since 1970. And that's something that if you look at factually, the crimes that are being reported, crime is actually down. But the good thing is people are more aware of it today. When you had the robbery at Parkdale Mall and things on that line, if nothing else, I should tell you, just look around. Look around your surroundings and be aware of where you're at. Because we all get that turtle effect where we stick our heads inside our shell and we walk inside without paying attention to what's going on around us. And that's one of the things we need to do. But no, I would not be afraid. There's nothing going on in this community it just happened that you have a gas station that's open 24 hours, and that's what it's kind of like the mosquitoes being drawn to the light. So, but no, like I said, the crime, we're not having any issues out here that I've identified. Except for speeding vehicles, we're still working on them. But I hate to tell you, the speeding vehicles are most likely your community members. Yeah.
Well, we thank you very much. Okay, we go on to our consent items. We have our minutes of the regular meeting, our financial reports for the city, financial reports to the water department, and those are all for April 21st and then April the 30th, and then the May 31st for the city and the water, and the report by the utility specialist and by Carolyn Blackman. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent items as they have been presented in your packets? All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Could we read those to the people? It's just a little short thing. Only utility specialists can, so let them know.
Oh, yeah, I can read that. I can read that, sure.
I'm gonna give.
Well, you're gonna give the
Give a
report.
report on that in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's fine.
All righty, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is the consideration and approval of our fiscal year 2014-2015 audit reports for the city and public works, and we will turn that over to Mr. Gregorio.
I talk loud enough, I don't need mine. So, good evening, council. My name is Milton Bertoglio. I am with Charles E. Reed and Associates, CPAs at Port Arthur, and I was the auditor that conducted your audit for fiscal year end September 30th, 2015. On behalf of Mr. Reed and the firm, we thank you for your business. We appreciate the opportunity to work for a good city. We found the city to be well governed, well managed, and financially sound. With that, I'd like to call your attention to the opinion paragraph on page 2 of our auditor's opinion. It is on our letterhead. I'd like to just take a moment and read that paragraph. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, and the major fund of the city of Double Oaks, Texas, as of September 30th, 2015, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof for the year that ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This is what's known as an unmodified opinion. In years past, it was called an unqualified opinion. It's a clean opinion. So with that said, I'd like to move to the second part of the report. It's titled Management's Discussion and Analysis. This is prepared by the city with comparatives from prior year. There's a lot of good information in here. I recommend that you go through here and you just look and compare where we were last year to where we are this year. The next section of the report is the basic financial statements. And I want to call your attention to the statement called Statement of Net Position. In the for-profit world, this is what's known as a balance sheet. Just want to point out some highlights. This did change quite a bit from last year in that you completed a major project, your sewer project, capital assets increased. So your total assets, citywide, your general fund and your water sewer fund, total assets are now $7,450,000 compared to last year, $5,272,000. Again, reflective of the project you completed. The next page is what's known as the statement of activities. In the for-profit world, it's also known as the income statement. You'll notice that in the governmental arena, expenditures are stated before revenues. Looks a little funny, but you did end up the year with a profit here. The next statement on page 12 is the balance sheet for the governmental fund, which is your general fund. We pretty much stayed static for the year in the general fund. We ended up with a total fund balance of $327,656 in the general fund. The next few statements are, I'm recovering, I'm reaching for a word, I'm recovering from infections. Bear with me. The next couple of statements are in regards to your water sewer fund. The sewer fund and the water fund in general amongst all governments is not designed to make a profit per se. They're made to break even and invest. In your case, the net change in fund balances were a loss of $48,000. However, you spent a pretty good bit in some general government road maintenance type payments that reflected in this year. You would have broke even had you not done it, and that will carry over to the next year. The next section of the report are the notes to the financial statement. I encourage you to read through there. A lot of good information in there as far as, especially about the debt that you issued, about your funding progress for the next few years. Capital assets are also stated in there. And with that said, I would entertain questions, but as I said, you are sound and well represented. Yes, sir.
Let's go back to page 14, which is statement of revenues, expenditure, and changes in fund balances. And I had Kimberly tried to explain this to me, but it seems to me, and you can explain this, but there's something askew here under road maintenance, this $106,934. We actually had that money in a road user fund that we voted to draw the money out, put it in the general account, and use it to repair our roads. So we actually had that money. That money was included in our budget, I believe, or maybe we did it after budget time, I can't recall. But it seems like if you took that $106,934,000 out of that equation, since it was money that we already had, and you subtracted it from the $245,300 there, we really only spent $138,366 out of funds that we had budgeted. So that in reality, it seems like in my feeble mind, we actually returned the money to the general fund in that transaction there.
In that
Am I off there?
Councilman Cruz, you are correct. Remember, we're working off of two statements. We have what's known as a balance sheet, and we're talking about the general fund. We have a balance sheet and we have an income statement. On the balance sheet, you will find your assets and your liabilities. If I could analogize that, it would be if someone were to take a picture of your financial position at September 30th, midnight, that's what you would look like. You would have your cash, you'd have your restricted cash, that was the money you put aside for road. Now, when you spent that money, it moved from the balance sheet to the statement of activities or your income statement. That's why it shows as an expense. Now, simple thinking, you are correct that if we were, we had the money, but we spent it. And that's why it reflects here.
So, but, if you look at it, it says that we've got a deficiency in revenues, or we've spent outside of what we had, but that's really not the case in simple terms.
Well, you had it budgeted, now.
And we had the money.
Yes, you had it budgeted, you had the money. Now, my thing on the budget, you can run a deficit budget if you'd like, as long as you're able to explain to these good people what you're doing. But here again, you had the money, and you spent it.
I don't have a budget right in front of me, but if I remember right, I think she told us that it was going to look like this because you know, it would look like that because of what he said, we would have to take that and put it in there. But at the end, it would all work out, you know, because we knew this was what we were doing and we were saying this was what we were gonna do, but as far as the budget was concerned, it would come out later because it wasn't gonna be income coming in. You know, you
Correct.
couldn't set it over there as income, it was already there, so you couldn't call it income. So our budget would look weird until the end.
And Mayor Ford, if you
transfer it
look
over.
back on page 29, you'll see that general fund budget.
Okay. Anyway, I think that's the way we have it set up, but because I know we had a big discussion about this, and that it was not gonna look the way we were thinking in our minds it ought to look, to where it wouldn't look like we had a deficit. But we weren't gonna have a deficit because we were gonna pull it out and pay for it out of those funds.
That's why we accounted for.
That's why y'all get paid big bucks, we know.
We're funny in our thinking, we're just, well, Daryl's one, I mean, we think differently.
So we still have 48,188.
Actually more than that.
Actually, we have more than that,
That's
but,
earmarked for that.
70-something thousand was what happened.
Yeah.
Road user
yeah,
fund.
we still haven't used it, so that's, yeah. We actually,
I just wanted you to give an explanation so everybody would understand, including me.
Back in principles of accounting, where we all started, when we got to this point, trying to delineate the difference between a balance sheet and an income statement, we lose half the class. I learned by drawing T accounts. Sometimes I still draw my T accounts, but it works.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
be careful.
I will. Mayor, Council, if you don't mind, I'd like to choose, I can afford that car to ride.
Sure. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, so our next item then is a motion to approve his audit as it has been presented to us tonight. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion of it or questions you're asking Cliff because he's here? Is there any further questions or discussion about it? Okay, all in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item on the agenda is a motion, consideration approval of a variance to ordinance number 241 for Mr. and Mrs. Bothaudu. They live in the house at 7135 Riverbend. It's the first one coming in down there that is flooded again. And they, I believe, have bought a travel trailer that they want to just stay in until the grant funds, or until the grant gets finally approved. And so they can be with their property. They don't want to try to live in it again and go through another flood. So they have asked us to give them a variance. I believe they have asked for is it in your Tim? Or did you just?
I mean, he didn't finish getting all the information to me, so I have to back it.
Oh, okay, so we can just approve it without it, you'll finish filling it out?
Yes.
Okay, well, anyway, I believe you did say you would like to have 12 months, because we know that, which I will explain to you in my report, that it's gonna take probably that long before, or close to that long before actually Maine will get here, once it finally gets approved. So, do I hear a motion to approve, to allow them to have a travel trailer parked by their house down there? It is not habitable right now until such time as they can.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I hear a second? Anybody?
I'll second.
Okay, any further questions or discussion about that?
Can I make one point? Something I've learned recently with a friend who's going through similar issues over in Pinewood. If they were to try to make the house habitable, they would not recoup any of those funds that they spent trying to make the house habitable.
That's right.
They would lose all of that. So knowing that this is happening right now, there's really.
There's no point in putting it on.
Yeah, you can't ask them to do that, that's crazy.
Well, we don't want them to, because they would subtract it off of any that we're gonna
Yeah,
give
they'll
them.
lose all that money.
Well, plus, now that we filed this for this FEMA grant form, they can't file an insurance claim or it will negate that deal, so they know that. That has been explained to them, so they can't file for insurance to repair it.
But anyway, Okay.
Didn't some people try to get some extended, extensions on the variances before, and they weren't allowed,
Not that I know of.
only in 90 days? I think that was correct.
Well,
From the
a long time ago we did that, but since,
last time that we had one.
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to the houses that burned down. Mr. Lichtenstein,
You mean for their RV to live in? Yeah, that's the way the ordinance is
I
written,
mean, that's
in
what-
90 days.
it's okay, you
but-
can do it in 90, you can do it any way you want to. I just told you what it
That's
applies.
well, I tried to do it longer before. I
We-
think I
you can.
suggested it, y'all
You
said
can.
that, no, you have to do it in
I
90
think
days.
previously there wasn't anything in stone happening or going on. I think in this instance, we know the process that they're going through, we know what they're in the midst of trying to do, and so the
I
other
don't
one
even
was
think we
just.
know if we have that grant yet.
No, we don't, we know,
But we know it's in
we know when the earliest we're going to know. We do know that, which we did not know those things about the other people.
Right, 'cause, I mean, to me, this, we know what's going on. Yes.
So what is the earliest we're going to know?
I'm gonna tell you all of that in a minute.
Okay, well, I mean,
It's
Might be
longer
hard
than,
to
it's
know
longer than
how long
90
the
days.
gentleman-
It's longer than 90 days.
as long as that's.
Mhm.
okay.
Who seconded
Okay.
that?
I think Mr. Mandy, I think Mr.
I
Mandy.
thought I heard some over here.
I think Mr. Mandy.
You seconded?
Mr.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was-
I think they both did. I think.
Yeah.
Well, y'all want to continue to do it like we did, or do y'all want to do it for a year or something? I mean, if y'all want to change
Y'all can
it
do
now,
it any way you want it.
just,
There's not anything in the, in the variance itself that says that you can only do it 90 days.
well, that's
We
what
have
I
done
mean.
that.
I was all for it, before, on houses burning down and stuff like that. It takes time, We've got one down out here that's been 6 months, and it's not even.
Well, I think in this instance, we know the process we're going through, we're helping them with that process, we've got dates, I'm okay with doing 12 months.
In 90-something days, let's say, she said Becky didn't tell us how long it will be until we know that we're getting the grant.
We will know, I can tell you, we will know one way or the other in October. There will be no money at all until at least February. So how many months?
That's 4 months.
Till October.
And then if it fails and it falls through, then they still can stay there for a year without,
Not another year.
the year that you're giving them up front, is what I'm saying. I mean, if you did it 90-day increments and then we came back and did it again, and then
Okay,
if
so
the grant
then-
fell through, then,
I'm sorry.
you have to do something else.
I think this is the point that he's trying to make, no problem giving them a month if we know they're gonna get this grant, this buyout, and they're gonna go through it. But let's say in 6 months, they don't get the grant, and then what? Are we gonna allow them to still live there until they, or for another 6 months, until the end of this period, until, are they gonna,
Well, then
are they gonna, until they decide they're gonna fix the house or what? So,
I propose
They
that we
can't fix the
modify.
house. They can't fix the house.
Yeah, they're not.
even if
We
they don't get.
will never give them, we cannot give them a permit to fix this house.
Okay, okay.
I can just tell you, the city cannot
Right, I
give them
forgot
a
that,
permit.
okay.
So, huh?
They're not even.
No, I meant to say it.
No,
This
no.
city cannot give them a permit. They are a severe repetitive loss, and if we didn't, then it's gonna jeopardize the flood insurance program for this entire community.
If we give them a year, they wouldn't have, and if we find out in 4 months that we didn't get the grant, hopefully we will get the grant. But if we find out in 4 months that we didn't get the grant, that gives them another 8 months that they can stay there in a trailer and not tear the house down and not do anything.
That's true. Give them whatever you want to. I'm just telling you that that's what he said he
I
wanted
mean,
to
the
do.
city wouldn't have any
I
leverage to
I
have.
propose that we approve the variance for 6 months, and then revisit it again in 6 months.
That sounds
That
reasonable.
sounds great.
Give everybody plenty of time to
That
know
gives,
what's gonna happen.
No,
that's an extra 2 months to find out if we got the grant.
Right.
And if we get the
may or
grant,
may
no
not
big
know.
deal.
The earliest we'll know is October, we may not know in 6 months on the grant,
Yeah,
but we'll be closer to the end of the process.
that sounds better, and that gives the city some leverage in case the house is just sitting there.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Perfectly fine. You can do it. So, you have.
6 months it is.
We have, we're gonna revise you've made a motion to approve a variance for a period of 6 months. Okay? And we have a motion and we have a second to that. So any further discussion on that? So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, 6 months, okay?
That would be a bad place to have a vacant structure, you know, with nobody there.
Well, that's the whole point. He needs to be there as long as his stuff is there.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm just saying, what if you didn't get the grant, you're not, can't fix it, they're gonna have to move, I mean, you know, just leave it there. I mean,
okay. The next thing is the approval, this is in your package, it is a consideration and approval of the joint election agreement, an election services contract between Jefferson County and the city of Bell Oaks for the November the 8th, 2016 election. And so this is just the general stuff we have to sign with them every year in order for them to handle the election and the equipment and the people and everything, so that all we have to do is give them the information that they need, and then they handle everything else for us. So, I'm sure, okay, we have a motion to approve that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any questions or discussion about that? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we are to the reports. All right. Everybody knows that we have been approved for a Parks and Wildlife grant for our park. And the gentleman told us that we should be receiving our letter towards the end of May, and that we absolutely cannot do anything until we receive that letter. So I have spent the better part of this week trying to get in touch with anybody at this Parks and Wildlife. None of them answer their phone, none of them return calls, and they do not return emails. So I do not know any more than I did when we came to the meeting the other night, except that, we just have to sit and wait till we get this letter. So I'm hoping that surely, I'm gonna try again tomorrow, but I feel like if they didn't answer all week, I know this Mr. Reese, who is our coordinator, the one that came here, I know they spend most of their time on the road doing, all the checking everything. But I don't know when they actually come to the office, but surely they have to come there sometime. So I'm going to give them another try tomorrow to try to just, my approach to it was that, our mail is not always reliable out here, and if he mailed it to us, maybe he mailed it and we just didn't get it yet. And if he had, I wanted to let him know we didn't get it, and maybe he could email it to us, because we're just very anxious, we're really not intending to bug him, but we're just really anxious to kind of know, because it is about 2 weeks overdue, according to our calculations. But I have not been able to get through to them. So I guess we're just going to have to have a little patience on that. We know we're approved, it's been posted, we know it's out there, but we just really kind of have to sit until we can get it. Now on this other one, I was notified day before yesterday that the grants had been approved by the Texas Water Development Board, which is what has to happen first. And during the process of them going through it, they went through and they even upgraded some of what we had officially, what we'd gone in with. We thought that we had 200% severe repetitive losses that were going to be eligible for 100% funding, and then we thought we had 275s, which meant that the owner would have to pay 25% of the value, and then the 75% would be paid for the grant. And I'm not sure what they looked at, and just don't really care, because it turned out really well for the homeowner. They upgraded one to a 90 instead of the 75, so that really helped that homeowner. And it also, according to Mr. Ward, it strengthened our application. And because the way they do this, he has to prove the benefit to FEMA of giving us this money. So they have to go through and determine what the current market value would be of these homes that are out here. Then they look at the cost to demolish them, all the closing costs, an appraisal fee. They add the fee that he charges for a buyout, survey fee, and the whole total project cost, which in this case is $836,809.72. Then, and of course, the federal share of that on this, which is not the upgrade one, but it was at 89.52%. It's a little bit larger than that now, since the one got upgraded a little bit. But then, when you look at the benefits, that's where they go in and show how much FEMA has already paid in losses on these properties. and that's $1,759,794. So that puts us over the 2% category, and that's what they're looking for. So when ours went in, ours is, well, actually, the email that I got showed ours was Texas 2016-1. Ours is the very first one from Texas going to FEMA. And he told me that ours was in the top, because of the rating that it is in the top level of what they're looking to approve. Now, that does not guarantee you that it's going to be approved, and we have already spent $6,500 of taxpayers' money trying to get this done. We have not lost any of that money yet, even though the first one didn't get approved. He did not charge us again to go back over that one. He added $2,500 for the other one. And he told me the other day that normally he charges $10,000 just to do one house, just to do an application on one house. But Kim and I did an awful lot of legwork for him on this. We had a lot of information that we could supply to him that he did not have to do himself. So he didn't charge us quite as much, which is a relief. But nevertheless, it is the city's obligation to try to, when money is available, to invest a little bit. And that, over the years, that $10,000 that we've had sitting out there in that contingency fund, every year just about we've talked about that this would be something that a buyout, we've never felt that we had enough money to try to do that, because I never knew that you could do it and do it for less than $10,000. I thought we would have to have a whole lot more money than that. But at any rate, we will not have lost any of this unless the application just does not go. I mean, once it's finally said and done, and everything gets paid, everything gets demolished, and all of the accounting of the grant gets done, then we'll know whether or not the city lost any money, which chances are very, very good the city will not lose any money. Like I said, unless it just flat does not get funded, period. If it doesn't get funded, then yes, we will lose $6,500, not just $4. So really, it's premature to say that anything's lost yet, or to even, he is being very encouraging about this, because apparently FEMA is, and Kim and I read that they're looking at even cutting back on some of these kind of funds, because people are just they're not using them like they have intended to use them, because they really want communities to try to get rid of these structures that are just being flooded over and over and over again, because they're just creating more and more claims. So if people aren't going to use the money, then there's no point in putting it out there for it. They'll just take it and pay it out in claims, I guess, and keep on charging higher premiums, which is another benefit. If we can start reducing the amount of claims we have, it should help our community not have to pay such high premiums for our insurance. But, and another thing will look good too, when the waters come, there will be houses for TV cameras to look at and say that Bevellux is flooding. So it'll have that little bit of an advantage. And of course, the city will acquire the property. It will belong to the city. Some of it will, I guess, we would be able to put it to use or something, but, at least one piece of it will be more valuable to the city than some of the others. So the city's not really going to lose when this is all said and done, as long as it gets done. And our citizens are certainly not going to lose. They need the help desperately. This should have happened a long time ago, but I don't know. I've never known that we had the opportunity to get this kind of money a long time ago, but it was there, and so it's good that we've had this opportunity, and hopefully it's going to go through this time. But he did tell me that October would be the earliest that we would know for sure whether or not this would be approved, and then it would probably be February before they would even start thinking about funding. So they have a long way to go.
I hear a lot of people, I want to mention something, I hear a lot of people gripe, why are we our own city sometimes? We don't like the rules and regulations. Why aren't we more like Pinewood? Why aren't we more like this or that? My friend at Pinewood, her house flooded in November. She still has no resolution. Hardin County has been less than helpful, because all they kept saying was repetitive loss. And I said, we haven't much to talk to her. How many times have you flooded? I said, well, we're doing something, you know, for some of our citizens that have severe repetitive loss. She went in without word that she qualifies, but nobody ever told her that she qualified under the severe repetitive loss. She had to find out over lunch. So I mean, the county, you go to these outlying areas, they're not all that concerned. I don't know how Jefferson County would be, but I feel like we're lucky that we're our own city. We're lucky that we have people who look into those things, and we're lucky that we have a council that works to take care of the citizens, because if we didn't have that, we could be up the creek just as much as they are. We could be in the same boat.
Well, it's pretty sad. I don't know what the folks that, I know that Ms. Rotro, I think, is providing a place for the Garcias to live in. That's really good. I'm sure they have a place they can stay until they need to go, or, you know, because I don't think they're going to venture back down there again either. I'm glad they're not. I mean, it's down to the getting lonely, and it's just probably just not healthy. And they too cannot, you know, we can't issue permits, so that's all there is to it. So that's all I have on that. But anyway, it is moving on, and from everything he tells us, it's looking good, and so we're just keeping our fingers crossed that these folks will get it, and so there'll be 4 of them, as long as none of them back out, and I know 2 of them are not planning on back, 3 of them are not planning on backing out, so we'll see how it goes. So.
You need to say something about those dates.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah, we do, we are going to have a budget meeting to be, where we're going to kind of review our council meeting this next month, because we do need to squeeze in a beginning budget meeting. And so anybody that's got budgets, and y'all start looking at them, we won't be finalizing them, but it's time to start looking at them. And then Kim's not going to be here the 3rd week, and I think that possibly this was good for the accountant too. So we're going to move our council meeting just this one time to the 28th, but we'll have 2 meetings in July. I hope everybody can make that, because we're going to have to do that probably July. I don't know if we'll have to do it again in August, but we'll certainly need to do 2 in July, so we can have just one of them, just primarily nothing but budget, where you can sit down and hash through all of it and start working toward it. If we have to have 2 in August, then we'll have 2 in August. But anyway, this way we can separate it to where they won't be back to back, and you will. Most of the time when we need that second one, you need a little bit of time in between to get information you might not have had for the first budget meeting. So this is an open meeting. Everybody is welcome to come, and maybe you can understand some of that stuff he was telling us tonight. So you're certainly welcome to be here. Okay, I think we go now to Councilman Frugé on your update on your sewer project and water plant.
Okay, let's start with the sewer project. We have not been able to connect to the city of Beaumont yet. There's a long story I'm going to go through with that, but don't anybody hold your breath. It's not going to be a bad ending when I get through. A couple years ago, whenever we negotiated a contract with the city of Beaumont, there was a different head of the water utilities department there at that time. So we negotiated that contract between them and the city of Beaumont. That took a while. We had some problems with communications, but we finally got that done. And then the engineering phase of the project was done with that head of the water utilities department. And then after that, that head of the utilities department moved on, and another person was inserted in that position. So in early December of last year, I was having a meeting with the engineer, and I said, you know, it looks like we're going to be through here and be ready to connect to Beaumont about, I don't know, end of January, sometime in February, depending on how the weather treats us. We've got 3 or 4 issues we need to discuss and work out with the city of Beaumont. We need to contact them and request a meeting. On December the 8th, he sent them an email, sent this person an email stating just that. Well, holidays go by, and one day I happen to think we haven't heard back from that person. So on January the 12th, he sent her another email that said, hey, I sent you this email back before. We still need to get together and meet on some topics. February the 3rd rolls around, we still haven't heard from this person. So I sent an email to her and had a little bit different tone to it than what the engineer did. And at 5:18 on February 3rd, we had our first correspondence from the city of Beaumont that basically said, yes, I saw your email, we'd like to get with you here, I'll be in touch. On February the 8th, we finally were able to start a dialogue with the city of Beaumont and the people in Beaumont that were now in charge of the water utilities district, or department rather. I'm not going to go into all that took place, but basically what happened was we had to re-educate these people about every aspect of our project. Drawings, why we did what we did, what was the design criteria. I mean, it just went on and on. We had to give them the drawings, specifications, go over why things were done. They asked for things that we didn't have that weren't a requirement. So anyway, all this time we're going back and forth. We'll send an email. It might take 2, 3, 4, 5 days to get a response. All this time we're telling them, look, we think we're ready for an inspection. We're ready to start. We think we're ready to start pumping to Beaumont. We'd like for you to come out and inspect. Finally, on April 1st, they agreed to come out and inspect our force main project. So on April 12th, we get an email back from them that indicates that we've got an engineering problem. So this first issue, I'm going to call it an administration issue. It took from December the 8th to April the 1st to get them to inspect. So on April the 12th, we get an email from them that says, hey, we inspected your thing, everything looks fine out there, but you've got a minor problem. You don't have the required amount of shut-off valves in the force main line per TCEQ requirements. Well, that's a pretty big shock. So this starts a whole new ball game. Now I'm going to have to do a little show and tell with you to explain what's going to come next. So in contract with Beaumont, one of the things that we had to do is we had to build this project per their specifications, not the specifications that Carolyn Blackman normally do, our engineer. All the force mains they build is built out of a type of PVC pipe that's called SDR21. And this is what that pipe is. You can see it's about, now this is 6-inch, not 8-inch, which is what our line is, 8-inch. But you can see it's got about an 8-inch, 3/8 of an inch thick wall thickness. And the way this pipe goes together, this is the bell end. You can see it's got a rubber gasket inside there. These two pieces of pipe push together. They make a tool that grabs it over here. It's got a lever on it and pulls it together. And that gasket in there makes a watertight joint. SDR21, standard force main. And force main is just another word for sewer line, but the reason they call it force main is because they're pumping water through it. It's not gravity from flowing. Now, Beaumont, their specifications call for HDPE pipe, high density polyethylene. You can see it's almost an inch thick. It's actually 7/8 of an inch thick. This pipe is put together by being fused welded together. They weld it together electrically. In fact, this is where a weld was. And when this pipe is fused together, the welded joint is stronger than the pipe. If they test it and pull it apart, it breaks someplace else. It doesn't break in the weld. Well, you can just imagine how much stronger this pipe is than this material and how much harder it would be to break this pipe if someone were to come along and dig in the ground or whatever. This pipe would be relatively easy pulled apart, and in fact, during times of severe drought, it's not unheard of for the ground to heave and give, and this pipe come apart on its own without any mechanical manipulation from a piece of equipment or anything. Okay, so when the engineer designs this project, determines where he's gonna put the cutoff valves in this line that go from the sewer plant all the way to Northwest Forest. I said, okay, so we need one at the sewer plant back here. Then the line leaves the sewer plant, it crosses the big DD6 ditch, turns south and comes down along the DD6 ditch till it gets to the pipeline, which is the boulevard, the pipeline that runs through the boulevard, but in the woods over there. So I said, okay, we need one where it goes under the pipeline, so they positioned one there. After it goes under the pipeline, it turns and goes east all the way to Tram Road. I said, okay, we need one at Tram Road before it goes under Tram Road. It goes under Tram Road, goes down Tram Road to Northwest Forest, goes into the behind Northwest Forest, goes to the lift station down there, and they install one there. Well, so come to find out, there's I'm going to call it obscure rule. It's probably not obscure rule, but TCEQ says that you have to have a shutoff valve in a force main every 2,000 feet. Now, that made sense whenever they made these things with this type of push-together pipe, but basically, had we not needed any valves, this would have been one solid piece of pipe from Bevel Oaks to Northwest Forest with no breaks in it. But they put 4 valves along the way, so anyway. So
this is what we've got in the ground now?
this is what we got. We got 13,000 feet of that in the ground from Bevel Oaks to Northwest Forest right now. So this starts a whole new round of controversy, we'll call it. So, like I say, on April 12th, we got the word that we didn't have enough valves in the ground. Excuse me. So, we petitioned the TCEQ to get a variance on that due to the type of pipe that we've used. We're not using this. The fact that 70% of this line runs through uninhabited and unimproved area. It runs down through the woods, basically. No one's going to be bothering this stuff. So we petitioned them. They denied that. They said, you're going to have. They said that you really need 5, but we'll allow you to put in 4 new valves in here. So it took from April the 12th to May the 20th to work out with Beaumont the back and forth with TCEQ to get the approval, just the approval to put 4 new valves in the ground at particular spacings as they called out. Okay, so on May the 20th, we got the approval from Beaumont to install these 4 new valves. After the contractor procured the materials, we had some rain delays. On May 31st, we installed these 4 new valves. On June the 1st, the next day, we sent an email to the city of Beaumont and said, hey, we put these new valves in. On June the 8th, we plan to test them, assuming that, or we plan to retest the force main project because we had cut into it in 4 places, so we had to retest the whole thing. We plan to retest it on June the 8th, assuming we have a successful test. Can we start pumping? That was on June the 1st, we asked him that. Didn't get a reply. On Monday, June the 6th, the contractor started making preparations to retest the force main. And on June the 8th, Wednesday, about noon, they completed a successful retest of the line. Sent an email the next day to Beaumont saying, hey, here's the certification of the retest of the line. Can we start pumping to Beaumont? And as of when I came in this room, we have not heard from them yet. Now, I have been advocating to do something over and above speaking to the people that we've been speaking with, or going up the chain of command, if you will. Both our engineer as well as our attorney who is here tonight has advised against that to a point. We need to give them X amount of time to make their decision. After that point, if they don't, then we'll go to the next step. So the amount of time that they've suggested that we wait until early next week. If we haven't had a response from them, then we're gonna do whatever else through upper channels, if you will. Now, a couple other issues that affect this thing is the cost of these valves. So, I asked the engineer, I said, well, so what about the cost of putting these in? He said, well, this is our take on it. He said, if we design something for you, say the lift station, if we design this lift station for you and it doesn't work as designed, then it's up to us to fix it, meaning pay for it, to get it to do what we designed it to do. If we design something for you and we leave out something, then you're gonna have to buy that something, in this case, 4 new valves anyway. He said, so that would be up to you to provide. He said, now, if in installing these 4 new valves in this line, if you incur some cost over and above the cost of just the valves, then we will pay for that. And in this case, they paid for the testing because we didn't have to test the line, we had already tested it. But when we cut into the line, it had to be retested from one end to the other. So the contractor spent 3 days out there retesting the line. Carolyn Blackman picked up the cost for that. Now, the cost for the valves, one reason that we haven't come back to the council to say, hey, we need a change order for these 4 new valves, is that when the job was bid, they get unit prices from the contractor. Many of them that cover just about every aspect of the project. For instance, let's say there was 10,000 lineal feet of this HDPE pipe to be installed. We get a unit price. What's it cost per foot if we need more or if we need less? That way, and let's say it's $30 a foot installed. So if they have to install 200 more feet over and above what the engineer estimated, we already have the cost. We know what it's going to cost per foot. You don't have to come back to anybody for approval. The mechanism is there. They also use those unit prices for billing. At the end of each month, if they only got 4,000 feet of pipe installed, they know how much it's worth. So they had unit prices for these valves, new valves installed for this line. They were $2,500 a piece, so it was a $10,000 hit for the 4 new valves to be installed. Now, as an example, if y'all will recall, some months back, we entertained a change order for $800 when the force main was being installed at the pipeline. We thought that we had a solution to the overflow of manholes during high water periods out here. So we thought if we installed a T, if you recall down there, we might be able to tie in the lift station at the end of the boulevard to the force main to alleviate that. We have since decided that's not a viable option. So there was no unit price for a T to be installed in that line. So that's why we had to come back to council and get approval for that $800. Another example is when we considered the washdown system for the pond bottom. There was no unit price for that. It was something brand new, so we had to come back to the council to get approval for that. But there's probably 30 items in this project that they have unit prices for, and some of the things we're not using at all. So anyway, so that's where we are today on the sewer project. Now, we'll see if our attorney and our engineer keep good on their promise to turn us loose to move on up the chain of command if we don't hear something by early next week. But like I say, don't hold your breath thinking something. We're going to get approved. It's just a matter of when. Now, you always hear there's a silver lining in every cloud. So it doesn't matter which date you pick. Let's say we thought that we were going to be ready in early February to start pumping. Then when we got the new crew involved, we're thinking when we had the the inspection, which was on April the 1st, that we're gonna be ready to start pumping. Well, so whichever date you go from, keep in mind, at the rate that we sell water to the citizens, which is the rate that we're gonna be charged for our sewer to Beaumont, based on the last usage I got from Kimberly, which has now been 2 or 3 months ago, so whatever the water usage was 2 or 3 months ago, our bill to Beaumont is gonna be about $14,000 a month for them to treat our sewer effluent. So if you count 60 days, we've been fooling around with the valves, so there's $28,000 we saved. If you go back to February or March, so tack on another 20. So the good thing is, while it's frustrating, we've not been able to complete this phase of the job. It's not costing us any additional money through our contractor or through our engineer. We're not able to move forward, but it is what it is, and that's where we are. I'm sorry that took so long, but yeah, myself, that's exactly. Now I got one more report. Yeah. Okay, so moving along to the next issue, which won't take nearly that long, I promise. So this past weekend, we had this past weekend, so we had an upset at the water plant. I want to explain that to you. Our utility operator, he and his father are not here today. The person that they left in charge texted me about 6 o'clock saying he had an emergency call out, so I'm going to convey to you what he conveyed to me, what has happened and what is ongoing at the water plant right now. So somebody complained Sunday afternoon they had some sediment or something in their water, and they thought they had a high chlorine content. Well, so this is what that problem, and they called the water department. The water department came out. They flushed their lines out, and this is what I'm about to tell you is what brought all this about. Everybody remembers here 3 weeks ago or so, the power went off in Bevel Oaks for 11 hours. Ever since that time, we have been experiencing off and on problems at the water plant, specifically with well number 3. Now, well number 3 is in the back, and it produces about 3 times the volume of water that the 2 small wells up front provide. So the number 3 well, one morning they come out, the well is off. Check all the electric components, test the voltage in the 3-phase power coming down to the power panel, check all the breakers, they check the pump, everything's fine, they trip the breaker, the pump comes back on, works like a champ. A few days go by, same thing happens again. They do all the same checks, everything's working fine, flip the switch, pump comes back on and works again. Now the 3rd time it happens, now they get concerned there's some other problem. So they call Entergy, tell Entergy, hey, we got a problem, we need an engineer to come out here and let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Well, so that call went in, what is today? Thursday. That call went in last week sometime, whenever the 3rd time it tripped out. I don't remember what day, when it doesn't matter. So anyway, finally, we got an engineer from Entergy to respond back to us today. And what we've asked them to do and what they normally do, the back pump is a 3-phase pump. So there's a transformer back there, a transformer bank with 3 transformers in it. Everybody suspects, I say everybody, the utility and energy now suspect that one of those transformers may be weak or bad after this thing. So they're going to come out and put line monitors on it. What a line monitor is just like a heart monitor. All us old people know what a heart monitor is. You know somebody that's had to wear a heart monitor to tell you what your heart's doing for 24 or 48 hours. So that line monitor is going to do the same thing. And what they suspect is that one of those transformers is seeing a low voltage from time to time, and when the control panel sees a low voltage, it trips the pumps off. Now, how does that cause a high chlorine content? Okay. So when the water system calls for water, it calls for the pumps to come on. All three pumps come on at the same time. The chlorine injection system injects chlorine into well number 1, which is a small pump, and I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 inch, but it doesn't matter. The amount of chlorine it injects into well number 1 is based on the volume of water from all 3 pumps. The one in the back that we're having trouble with pumps 3 times as much water as the 2 in the front. So when the back well goes offline, it's injecting too much chlorine by a large factor into our storage tanks. Well, I know that sounds bad, don't panic. So the TCEQ requires that the chlorine content be checked every day where it leaves the water plant and goes into the distribution system for the whole neighborhood. Records have to be kept of that. They also require that we have monitoring sites around the neighborhood, and we have 7 around the neighborhood. And they test the chlorine content at one of those 7 stations every day. So that in a week they've checked the whole neighborhood in addition to checking at the well or at the plant where it goes into the distribution system. Okay, so the chlorine content for our drinking water, the TCEQ says, needs to be in the range between 0.2 milligrams per liter to 4 milligrams per liter. So it's a pretty wide range for a sort of sink. If the chlorine content gets below 0.2 milligrams, we have to issue, or we have to issue a boil water notice. And the solution is to get the chlorine back up to where it's supposed to be and have a clean chlorine reading for 3 days in a row. That's one thing that one of the things that triggers a boil water notice. The other thing that triggers a boil water notice is if the pressure in the distribution system or the pressure in a service line that goes down a road gets below 20 psi. Then we have to issue a boil water notice. Pressure has to be brought back up, and if it's just a service line on the road or something, and it only affects that part, then those are the only houses that get the boil water notice. If the pressure is low in the whole system, the boil water notice goes out to the neighborhood. Now, what about when we have high chlorine content? This is what the TCEQ says. If the chlorine content is high, and they don't give a value, but if it's high, they say to manually adjust the chlorine and flush the system. Why do they say that? It seems like there should be some high value for the chlorine. Well, this is why. It's not going to go more than 24 hours that it was checked. They have to check it every day. So if they come out at 8 o'clock this morning and the chlorine's fine, they come out tomorrow, the well tripped off at 8:30 after they left. Each time the system comes on, it's putting too much chlorine into the water, so the chlorine content in the water that we have here may get up high. I asked him what the highest reading we've ever had out here when that happened. He said it was 7.4. TCEQ says to cut back on the chlorine, flush the lines until you get it back in parameters. That's all they say. So I'm sure there's some high chlorine content that's a problem, but he couldn't answer that question when I asked him ahead of giving you this report. So while it may smell bad or taste a little bad, it's not a health hazard. And in no time has there been a health hazard to the public with regards to our drinking water with this particular issue regarding this outage or whatever, that we're still not sure what the problem is. And it's tripped off 2 more times, so it's tripped off a total of 5 times now. Energy says, oh yeah, you've got a problem, we need to get a line monitor out there. No kidding. So, a problem, if you suspect you have a problem, whether or not you got sediment or discoloration in your water, if you think your chlorine or your water tastes bad due to too much chlorine, call the office if it's during the office hours, or call the utility operator's phone number on the water utilities department or on the city hall here. One other thing while I'm on this topic, and this will be short, if you ever go by the water plant and you see water spilling out of one of the water tanks, that could be a problem or not. At least once, sometimes twice a year, the utility operator flushes those tanks. Well, you think, why does he flush the tanks? That was my question. Well, here's the reason why. The water from the water wells is pumped into the bottom of the tanks. So that's the tank. So the water's pumped into the bottom of the tank. When the water is pumped out of the tanks and goes into the distribution system for the neighborhood, it comes out of the bottom of the tank. So the top surface of the water in that tank never gets changed out. It's constantly going up and down. That tank is vented to the outside, and it's got a screen on it that keeps birds and whatever, bees from getting up in there. But as that water level rises up and down in that tank, I'm sure there's things that come off the wall. Dust can come in through those vents where the water comes out. So at least once a year, they flush the tanks by raising the water level all up the way up to the top and letting it run out for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. And that's not a requirement by the TCEQ, by the way. That's just something that the operator requires. So we waste a few gallons of water. So if you ever drive by and see water running out of one of those tanks, doesn't necessarily mean he's flushing it. It could be a problem. Just call the number and report it. That's all you gotta do. If they're doing it, they'll say, okay, we're doing that, or they'll say, oh, okay, we'll be out there looking at it. Mayor, back to you. I do.
Well, I believe we're community development.
Yes, ma'am, I have an important game tonight, I think, so
Yeah.
I'll keep this short and sweet. 4th of July coming up, festivities kick off at 6 p.m. Please come out, please bring your families, invite your friends. We want to make this a really fun community event. Really excited for it. We're doing the parade and everything again this year. All the usual suspects are coming back. All of the normal activities will be there. I'm trying to find judges, people. It's my understanding that other people in the community do not believe that our citizens can be objective when voting for float winners and such. So it is preferred, I have been informed, it is preferred that they be from outside of our community. So if you are bringing friends or family from outside of our community that can be objective, I would love for them to be a judge. So please just get with me. Otherwise, we will have our citizens because I have faith in them.
Ms. Leach, go
Yes,
ahead.
what's up?
The group I have that comes out and cleans up the park area over there, I'll give them, and I'll give them.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Because I have an event planned down there that day for them.
We did have a special attraction, I think.
We're gonna bring out our SWAT team.
That's right. We have
Kids
something.
City, yeah, it's something for the kids to see, and I think especially with what's taking place recently in Orlando, it gives it an opportunity for them to see that, we don't roll that stuff out except for when tragedy occurs, but I think it's an opportunity for us to interact with kids. We finally have something cooler than a fire truck, and, but, as many kids, especially today, it gives us an opportunity as law enforcement to interact with the kids and for them to see some of the stuff that we utilize.
And we're glad. This is definitely a family-friendly event. A lot of kids out there, and they have a great time, so it's.
Well, they'll get to see both. They'll get to see the fire truck too, so.
Park in front of the fire.
Probably their daddies will enjoy that anyway.
And I'm done. No, but it doesn't go backwards.
Okay.
I forgot one very important thing when we were talking about the water. I forgot to look down in my notes. There is a function that we have at the water plant. It's called an auto dialer, and it calls out the utility people when there are certain things that go wrong. This auto dialer that we have down there is a 4-function auto dialer, and it only calls out when 4 different things happen. See if I can find my notes where I wrote that down. One is when there's a total power loss to the water plant. The power that comes in from energy comes to the water plant. If there's a total loss of power, then it calls. However, it's got a delay. And it's, I don't know, 45 or 60-second delay to give the standby generator time to come on. If that generator doesn't come on in that required amount of time, then it sends a phone call to the utility people that, hey, we've had a power outage. Now, the well in the back, the number 3 well in the back that we've had this problem with, is not on that system. It's got its own separate power bank back there, so it doesn't come through the auto dollar system. One of the other functions is a low pressure in the system. If the pressure drops below 20 psi in the system, it calls the utility people and tells them that we got low pressure, they come out here. If there is a high pressure system, a high pressure situation in the system, it calls them and tells them we've got too much pressure. They try to maintain the pressure around 55 psi. I do not know what the high pressure parameter is, but there is one. Let's say it's 70 psi. So if the pressure it calls them. And the other parameter is a low water level in the tanks. If the water level in the ground storage tanks drops below so much, it calls them. And that's the only thing that's the only 4 functions that the auto dialer calls about. It doesn't call about chlorine, it doesn't call about well number 3, it doesn't call about vandals breaking in or anything else. I'm sorry I forgot that. Go ahead.
Okay. Emergency management, Mr. Smith. Listen to him groaning. He actually had to work this year.
That's one of the hardest working guys I know.
Mayor, council people, children, and sort of all ages. As y'all know, we had a little water rise last week or so. Had one in November, and it wasn't quite as high as it was in November, but still all had the same. Got the barricades out, did all the stuff. We did a couple things a little different this time because I had to. Unfortunately, there are some people out here who think because barricades up doesn't apply to them. And as far as I know, and I'm going to try to find out the ruling, I'm trying to work on that, but when you go around a barricade, you put yourself in danger and everything else, and I think it's fine. So, but I'm going to find that out with you guys. But look, guys, when the barricades are, and I know most of you guys live out here and probably been out here forever, don't go around the barricades because people see you do it, and then they think they can do it, and they talk about fishing on the internet, on the website, and the whole 9 yards, and it doesn't help. So the barricades are there for your safety. And I'd like to thank Danny and Mayor and Sherry for helping me out and telling me about stuff and getting things done out there. But we have 3 problem spots, and what I've gotten with, I'm going to get with Danny and the council people, all of y'all, I need your input. So we have 3 problem areas, mainly River Road, River Bend, and 2 spots on River Bend. River, the people that live off the boulevard right there, that becomes an island. And those people there, fortunately, nothing happened, but one of those ladies was very pregnant.
Still is.
Still is.
Still is.
And, and I came by there as much as I could before the water was above where I couldn't go. But wanted to make sure that they had cars available and that kind of thing, and that kind of stuff. They become an island. And we've got to figure out some way that, they can function there, but if they have an emergency, we'll try to get them out. So we've got to figure out, address that little spot. The other thing is that the water scale that everybody wants to go see is becoming a problem. Just because it's there and everybody wants to go down there, it becomes underwater. And we have people that go down there and they get stuck, and they get on the boulevard and they get stuck, and now we have a rescue problem. That's just putting everybody in a bind. I would like to see that thing moved or somewhere or something else. Because I know people want to see the depth of the water, but I had to barricade across where the fire department was and rope it off, and we still had somebody that drove around it all the way back there and took a picture of it and put it on the website so that others could see it, okay? We can't do that because other people see you go down there and you may be in a four-wheel drive truck, you may do all those things, but you're putting everything in a bind. So, we'll address that. And I've gotten with Danny, and what we want to try to do is sink some pipes so we can chain it across. Once those chains are there, you're not going to be able to get it. If they break the chains, but we've got to make them the right height so we're not going to decapitate anybody that goes through it. But we've got to be able to take care and get those people there. We've got to get with the pipeline company, see if we can bury a pipe in the middle of that somewhere and determine that. As pointed out also by somebody, that I loaded some sand for one house. There's only one house that's kind of in danger, and it's the house that's up on Rolling Hills. Now, I put that sand there to help these people out, and got sandbags, help them with doing all that. But I put the barricades over it for a reason, because nobody else needed the sand. Okay? But as pointed out, that the sand was safe. Okay, yeah, that's true. But only one house is in imminent danger of having any kind of water in it. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But what we're going to do is, and I got with a couple of council people, I think we're going to put that sand back here. Again, it's easier to get to. There's not going to be any obstructions, anything like that. And we can get that part completely barricaded. There's no reason to go down there. Okay, but we'll talk about the logistics. Hopefully, we're not going to have that problem again. And if it does, we'll address it at that time. But some other things came up for issue as far as that. On River Road, after I barricaded that, one of the trees came on down. Well, fortunately, it's a small tree. I didn't have to spend much time cutting it, but we need to get some equipment with the emergency management chainsaw. Radios for that, where if I need to get a hold of Mr. Marandino, because he's got the bucket and do good. If I need to get a hold of him, he can help out the community, which he does a bunch. There's things where I can get a hold of Danny or I can get a hold of any of you guys. But inevitably, I've got to be the guy in charge to coordinate stuff, because I'm going to be coordinating with the county. Okay, those guys, the mayor has a great rapport with them. I do too, and so I'm going to coordinate with them. So we've got to be able to all be on the same page. But actually, it went pretty smooth. We tried to stay in touch with you guys. I went down there and Mr. Smith and all those, and we got that barricaded off. And up there near Niagara, that becomes a problem site too. I'd like to see if, as the council people, Niagara comes up dead at the top, if we can get some eminent domain, or is there a right of way there where we can get those people to come out on 105? And see if instead of coming down River Bend right there, that way we can completely rope off River Bend, and they can't come down there. So there's no, believe it or not, I'm going to tell a real quick story. I chased a person out who had drove their four-wheeler with his daughter on the front of it from Pinewood to see the water, and was bringing their buddies with them on that. And I said, "Hey man, you don't live around here." He goes, "I just came to see the water." I had to show them out. It's that kind of stuff. It's just, and the residents are having water come into their houses, and we just don't do that. So anyway, that's basically the report on the actually went pretty well. I think we communicated pretty well, and I appreciate everybody that helped and had those deals. Hurricane season's up. If we get one, I can't. Nobody can predict the future. I'm just saying, stay prepared. This is a time when you guys need to make sure you have all your medicines for a month. And think about those things. Think about your house, how you can make it safer. If you need a generator, if a hurricane's coming, I'm not saying stay. Okay, you probably need to leave. From an emergency management point of view, I want you gone. Okay, but that's a decision that's up to you. But you need to go ahead and start preparing mentally and physically and all those things. Get with the fire department; they're great guys. Get with the sheriff's department, get with anybody, and find out what you actually need. I can help you too, and just go from there. Anybody have anything?
I spoke to Greg Fountain for you and got some information on the radios, and spoke to Danny about some of those other things that had to do with roads. And so maybe this next week we can talk about the radios.
Guys, we're all in this together. This has been a great community, despite our differences a lot of times. I know that a lot of people out here are all about the community. There's people that do things out here, and what I'd like to do is next time I have a situation, I'd like to get one of these guys like Nolan, y'all know Nolan, hire one of these kids to, that know the area, they're old enough, they're responsible enough, they can do the barricades, do the stuff, help out with those kind of things, and I'll get with you guys on that. But, in the time of crisis and any time like that, we've got a young gun who's willing to do it, they're enthusiastic, we turn those guys into help and have, but we've got to get them some identification, those kind of things, and all that. And I probably need that too, because people kept asking me, well, who are you? And I said, well, sure.
Those chains that you're talking about, that's pretty permanent, if you have to rush through there, what would I have done? I'd have to run over a chain to go get her out of there, because I went down there and got her.
Well, you noted that it has to be where we can still get emergencies, if that. But if it comes down to where they're gonna have to evacuate or anything like that, we're not gonna get it to where, look, like River Bend. If we have to get these people out, they gotta get out. So we've gotta keep people out.
A barricade's a barricade, those chains, man, you kill somebody with chains.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that we've gotta have a way where people don't go around the barricades. Yes, sir.
It's typical of arrestable offense. And I think once we catch somebody, what you're gonna find kids, and it includes four-wheelers going around those barricades, start issuing tickets. Now, the question I have is, and it's a state law, so I don't think we have any contact with four-wheelers. We have some issues with, because you have city ordinance issues and things like that. But no, as far as if we catch somebody going around a barricade, I've done it before, folks. Yeah, here's your ticket, sign here. But, and what it was, you hit the nail on the head. It was looky-loos, right? It's the nicest term I can think of, but they're going down to see somebody else's misery. So I had actually no problem issuing this.
The only problem, and he's right, the only problem is that you got a big county.
We gotta be in the
And you got one or two guys, and when if they spend 3 or 4 hours here and nothing happens, and then, of course, the thing is once they see somebody sitting,
yeah,
they're not gonna do that.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Now,
We gotta catch them.
And in their case, they had to get out by four-wheelers. They had to, that's the only way they could get back.
You have to use common sense.
So,
What I'm
exactly.
saying is, disregarding the barricade is actually a typical offense.
But down like the River Road where it dips and it comes up, there's no residents on either side, they can go around. Okay, you put a barrier, you put poles and a chain there, and there's no reason for it to come around or barricade. You just gotta have a solution to it to where it makes sense.
You do have a lot of people out there, I don't know if you were looking at it or not, but there's a lot of people out there that were constantly asking, is the water going up, or is the water going down, or how fast is the water going up?
And we put it on the
How fast is
website.
the water going down?
We put it on the website, it's on the website, you can go on there, we constantly told people ask me all the
But
time.
when you look at those graphs and all that stuff, and they don't even measure up to what we have out here, and people want to know compared to what we had last time, and that pole down there is a great resource for that, because you have it marked on there, and if there's just a way for one, not when it's 6 feet deep on the road, don't get me wrong. I'm
Once
saying
the water, my responsibility is, if I understand it correctly, once the water starts coming on the road, that's it. You can't go down there because it only takes this much water to wash your car off. It only takes that much. And people don't understand, you
I
can laugh,
understand.
but that's the rules.
You don't have a tank flow, I mean, it ain't like you got running water.
And I understand, my truck weighs 2,000 or 3,000 pounds, just like yours and everybody else does. But by rule, I can't, if something happens and I don't have a barricade.
No, I'm saying is can we make some kind of thing where maybe we could at least get a picture of it every day?
Well, you could
24 hours, what's the deal? When it's not to drown somebody,
Well,
or even walk down there or something.
And I know when Doug Knapp was looking at putting that, he asked me about, there was 2 places. He could put it on the side of the ditch right there by he suggested there or down there.
You have to put it where the water's at.
Before the budget was talking about where it's just past the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lewis made a good suggestion, but we're not to the point where we can do it there
But
yet.
anyway, it became a problem, and and also I've got one property where I put the barricade up to the stop signs. They decided to go through the property because you could enter it, and then you could exit it down here, and then you could go down to the Bountiful house. And so I had people going through that property, coming out on the other side and going down there. I even written off the newspaper. So we'll fix it.
And then somebody suggested also maybe something to look at is if we could put some rocks or something on top of the grassy boulevard spot, because it's a lot higher than the road is right there.
We don't have, I don't think you can do that. You have to get the pipelines.
Well, I mean, if you got the pipelines permission, I mean, just gravel.
Well, the big thing is-
The guys that were going in and out, going to work, they were getting stuck.
Yes, ma'am.
What our issue was, when the deputy came out to the house when I called him, is when that water was coming up, it came up 2 feet higher than what or we would have been out if we didn't known that there. But those people were coming down the road, they were moving that barricade at dark and leaving it. That's why I called the deputy, and that's why the deputy came out. They were leaving it. We've got other people, if there's no barricade, they're gonna drive off in that water.
You got young people that are driving off in that one. I'm pulling one out with my tractor.
The ones that
Basically, that's about it, Mayor. I think overall it was a pretty successful on getting stuff. I know I was up 24 hours checking on people. I check on people all the time. That's just what I do, and I don't mind doing it. But as far as the next thing, I think the only thing that we really got to worry about now is the tropical things that come up this way, and just everybody's got my phone number, trust me. And so you can call me. I'll put my big boy pants on, and we can have discussions and everything else. But that's it, because I'm gonna
We
work with
appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for that 24-hour service.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Marindina, I believe you are up.
Yeah, a couple of them, a bunch of this got answered already. I did want to ask about I thought you were going to cover that too, on the mowing part of the city. A lot of people were asking about why we hadn't got mowed this year, but maybe why all year long.
I think Greg Foster said it Monday night, we've had 50 inches of rain so far. I think anybody out here could have probably answered that question.
Well, I think anybody out here probably knows their ordinance. Including you.
Well, they didn't even start, their contract didn't even start till April. No, April.
Greg, if you like, I can answer and address your question. Is that what you-
Yeah, I mean, that's what, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
People were asking me the weeds with the thing, and it's not just the weeds, because they pick up the trash too whenever they do that, you know? I mean, if it's too wet to pick up trash, it's too wet to pick up trash.
Okay. You ready now? All right. So this year, the mowing contract started on April the 7th. That's the day they signed the contract and made the first cut. Last year, it started on April the 8th. The year before that, it started on March 4th. Well, where's that date come from? I'm the one that calls the mowing contractor and says, hey, the grass is high enough now, it's time to start. Come sign your contract, we'll get started cutting the grass. So this year, he came and did it on April 7th. Okay, so he set up to cut on about a 2-week rotation, twice a month, I think is what it says. Well, so he cut on April the 7th. April the 7th was the first cut. On April the 13th, we had 1.1, and this information comes from the Weather Channel for Bevel Oaks, the amount of rainfall we had here. So anyway, on April the 13th, we had 1.2 inches. On April the 18th, we had 2.08. The next day, we had 0.14. The day after that, we had 0.28. And on the 21st, when it would have been time for it to cut it the second time, we had 0.6 inches. Well, I mean, it just goes on like that. Yes, there's maybe 5 or 6 days in between rains, but, you know, you should know better than anybody that, you know, once you start getting a lot of rain, you got people stacked up, you need to get them in rotation to get cut. I told the guy from the get-go when he started, when it rained, I didn't want him cutting the next day and leaving ruts all over the property that we have exposed here, like here, the boulevard, around the city hall, the fire station, all those places. So I told him I wanted it to dry some. Well, so he came and cut it just last week, whenever it was. Half of the grass at the water plant couldn't be cut because it was still too wet, and there's a large percentage of of grass at the sewer plant that it's still too wet. So that's why he hasn't cut more than he has. Now, I mean,
Maybe just an idea is if they could just cut the entrance and the boulevard and around the fire station, those are all high areas
Well,
that don't rut up and aren't muddy.
I told him that July the 4th,
Separate thing.
July the 4th, we always have a big wind dig out here, come hell or high water, I didn't care what. We wanted to cut ahead of that event, which is on Monday, so he had, hopefully, if it's 4 or 5 days ahead of that, we will get it cut this year, if Mother Nature.
And it doesn't matter if it's too wet at the water plant, the sewer plant, as long as he can mow this up here, this is where the people are gonna be.
That's true. I don't
I'm
have
just saying,
any,
maybe on the contract, maybe next time to do it, maybe you can have it where, yeah, when it is too wet, you don't have to mow the water plant, you don't have to mow the sewer plant, but we still need to get the boulevard, and the fire station, and the front end there to mow.
okay, so the worst thing about it not being cut, it was maybe a little unsightly, okay? I mean, it didn't hurt anybody, nobody got their feelings hurt. Now, from the time that he started cutting on April the 7th to the time he cut it last week, what day did we decide that was? Hell, I forgot. Yeah, last Friday, okay. So, in that time frame, I think I counted up, it should have been cut 6 times, it's only been cut 3 times. Well, the city saved $2,025 by not having it cut, so that money will go back into the general fund to be spent on something else, and you had to look at the grass that was a little unsightly in places. We could. And by the same token, when it gets down in July, August, and September, and we're not having a lot of rain, and the grass is not growing a lot, I tell him, hey, don't cut it this time. Sometimes we go 3.5 weeks now. This is the opposite, I understand, but anyway, remember, the guy's in business to make money. He don't make money if he don't cut the grass. He wants to cut the grass. If he's not cutting it, there's a reason. Okay.
And then the other thing was, and I understand that sewer plant had been, the retention pond had been put in the service, so that should help that sewage that flows out into the people's yard across the street. And hopefully, that'll give the water somewhere to go.
It sounds good, but probably not. I presume you're talking about the manhole that overflows every time we have a hard rain on
There's
the.
3 or 4 of them, but that's the main one right there about the crossing wall. There's some more on some other.
That is a problem that communities throughout Texas, Louisiana, Beaumont have with I&I problems getting into the sewer collection system. The reason that it happens there is because the lift station on the boulevard pumps into that manhole to get into the gravity system to go down to the sewer plant. That is one, that manhole right there is one reason that we joined TCEQ's SSOI program, which is sanitary sewer overflow.
It's smoke testing on it.
Right, which means if you've got manholes that are overflowing, rather than them come in and find you, they put you on this program to smoke test your lines, make your repairs, smoke test your manholes, repair them. We've done about half of them in the city, but we haven't done the half from there going down that way. Now, if when we get through smoke testing and making the repairs that we find, we hope that it will solve the problem, but none of us think that it will. And the bad news is there's not a cheap solution, and I'm talking $400,000 or $500,000 solution, because we're going to be stuck with that. Now, knowing that, we've requested from the TCEQ a 2-year extension on our 4-year SSOI plan, just to give us more breathing room to deal with that problem right there. So, you know, maybe it'll work out where after we test and smoke test and repairs, we get the pond and all that, maybe we will affect that, but I promise you there's no promise.
And there was supposed to be somebody here to talk about the building permit, but anyway, this last weekend, we had a person that was building building a shop, and he had his dirt down and everything, and he got the people ready to come out and build the building, or pour the concrete, and then he declined the permit from the city, because they said he needed an elevation certificate for his building, so he called a surveyor, and they immediately came out, shot him an elevation for $750. Went back down there to get the permit, and they said no, because it was gonna have to be built up to 30 feet. And that's when he called me, and then I told him, I said, well, I wasn't aware that any of the shops out here were had to be built up.
Anything, any shop that is in a flood zone has got to either be elevated or vented. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, that's the
If it's
thing.
bigger
about-
than 200 square feet.
And I know if it is a FEMA's rules say.
But this is something that we just started,
No,
right?
no, 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 no,
Negative.
no, this has been around forever.
been
This
around
is
since
FEMA's
then.
rules.
Oh, well, I haven't seen them built.
This is FEMA's rules, and I guarantee you, we've got them out here that have been vented, we've got them out here that have been elevated, and that's the rules. And if
That's
you're in
good, I
flood
can
zone-
show him some that are
But-
rented out here.
Yeah, there's
My
vented.
house.
Yeah, they're vented, and I mean, it's, if you're in a flood zone, that's the way it has to be.
Mhm.
Mr. Garshaw over there on River Road, his is elevated, I believe, isn't it? And his elevated, yeah, he elevated his, but there's others that are just vented, because they didn't want to elevate. So you can do either way.
That's good,
But let me tell you what the problem is. You know, most of the time, the work is already done before anybody comes and asks, what do we need to do? And once, you know, because everybody just thinks, well, you know, we've always done it this way, we just go on and start our project and get going, and they don't come and ask, they don't give us an opportunity to tell them, this is FEMA's rules. And if you're in a flood zone, this is what you have to do, but you've got options, you can do it either way. If you don't mind having water run through, then just put a vent in it.
Yeah, we'd have had that option, he'd have had this country.
Well, he had that option, because Kim gave his people the papers.
I can explain. First of
Oh,
all,
I heard this.
well, I can explain. First of all, he came in and they spoke to me, and they had already started and took care and put down the dirt before he came and talked to me. And when he came and talked to me, I told him he had two choices. He could either vent it or elevate it. If he wanted to elevate it, he could do that. He didn't want to hear anything about the venting at the time because elevation would be easier. I also told his builder at the same time, when his builder came in for the permit. I told them that if you're gonna elevate it, you have to have an elevation certificate, you're gonna require two. You're gonna require one beforehand. When you do that elevation certificate, it's gonna tell you what the base flood is, and you're gonna have to build it 2 feet above. His elevation came back at 28 foot, which means his elevation had to be at 30. So it had to go up 2 feet. When he brought it back, that elevation certificate showed he was only gonna bring it up 1 foot. So you can't do that. You're gonna have to bring it in another foot, or I told the builder again.
You've already explained enough to me, and that's probably the reason why he didn't show up. How about that?
So he's decided to vent, so.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted me to ask about it, so I did that. And then the other thing was, on that FEMA, the $4,000 application, now I'm totally confused, because you said we didn't lose any of that.
We haven't lost anything, bud, not a dime, and we won't until we.
So that grant application is still in
It's
motion?
still in, everything's still in motion.
That particular one, we weren't declining.
It was declined, but they didn't have to charge us again to redo it, because we'd already got all the information.
But that's
So they
only the
had-
grant administrator.
He's the one that you're paying, he's the one that's getting $4,000.
Well, he's getting part of the 4,000, but
He's
FEMA's getting the
getting
grant
all,
application fee.
he is getting the 4,000, yeah, he's getting it, yes, he is.
But he
But I'm
has
just
seen
telling you,
something, right? Out of the 4,000,
nothing's happening here until it's all said and done. You just need to cool it till it's all said and done. If you want money, then you can go spread it all over the world.
No, I'm just asking if.
I know what you're doing.
We've already addressed this 2 months ago.
We have, we've already did that. If this is it, can we, I'm sure the game.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you all for being here.